welcome to episode 18 of Masters of the Forge. My name's Adam, and I'm here with Snorri.
Hello.
Hey, so today the episode is about Battlefleet 40,000. It's a game that I came up with, well, let's be honest, a game I stole from two different sources.
Yeah. Who's making X-Wing and Star Trek Attack Wing?
The actual X-Wing rules were developed by Fantasy Flight. And we all know that, Fantasy Flight is a great company. They come up with some really awesome games. Star Trek Attack Wing is made by WizKids because WizKids had the license for Star Trek, for like Star Trek miniatures games. And, the system for X-Wing was really popular and owned by Fantasy Flight. So it's Fantasy Flight's rules using the IP that WizKids is licensed for. So WizKids produces it, and they produce a lot of the ships and stuff. But they're kind of borrowing the rules from Fantasy Flight. So in this, we are borrowing the rules also from both of these systems, and we're using the Battlefleet Gothic ships like the Warhammer 40,000 ships. This is a
So I guess that this episode is going to be like a fourth generation photocopy. It's going to be blurry and unreadable.
Yep, but the very clear on the bottom, it's going to say, disclaimer, this is not a challenge of any copyright of Games Workshop or
Either
WizKids LLC or
Fantasy Flight
Games. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is just for fun.
Yeah, please don't sue us. We have no money to give away. This is for free podcasting, so, good luck.
Yeah, so well, it's been quite a week and a half, 2 weeks since we've more than 2 weeks since we've recorded. Right? I think why don't I start?
Okay.
So I've been painting scouts apparently. And painting scouts and painting scouts and painting scouts and painting scouts and painting scouts. When we spoke last, I was just going to start the black. The black is down. The silver's down, and I've got a black wash on that silver and the gray. Now tonight, I have to start the yellow. The armor is mostly yellow on these guys, so that's going to take a lot of work. Yellow is a pain. Now, the GW...
I do have a tip for you. It's probably not going to help you, but I've heard that GW makes this really amazing yellow paint. It's called a wash. Because I've seen several people actually do Imperial Fists by painting miniatures white and then just washing them with the yellow.
Right.
It comes out beautiful.
I do that with my orcs, but that's too chaotic and it's too late. You'd have to start with the white and then wash and then add the other stuff. It's too late for that now. I've got a lot of the stuff done, so I'm gonna have to use the Averland Sunset. I'm not gonna lie, the Averland Sunset is a nice color. It's a really, really nice color, and I really like it. If these were my Space Marines, I would do exactly what you just said, but there's a certain level that I don't think they don't really like you to do a lot of washes. So, I mean, I still do them because I'd be insane if I didn't. But so I've been working on that, and I've been really kind of bad about it. In 2 weeks you'd think I'd have more done, but I don't. I did do a tester model, and it looks pretty great, but I think things are starting to catch up with me, Snorri. Things have started to kind of snowball, and I am feeling like too little butter spread over too much bread, as Bilbo would put it. And I decided I spoke with my wife. We had a long talk, and we've decided that I will no longer be working for Frontline after these projects. So I think this is the right decision because I have been able to kind of maintain for the past like 6 months. I've been able to kind of maintain. I did get a bunch of work done on the Titans. I didn't finish them, but I did get a bunch of work done. I've been able to participate in the community, but everything is really starting to build up on me now, and I can't. I think I just can't. I can't juggle all of it at once. It was nice. It paid some bills. Got some, you know, got my gas bill like gone and everything. So that was nice. But it's time for me to move on and pursue the things that are more fun.
So basically, you're not stopping commission work. You're just not doing um, these. Oh, what was the company again?
No. I'm stopping commission work. Like
Oh, okay.
if a friend asks me, like my buddy Kevin, his sisters, if he buys a new model, he'll ask me, "Hey man, can you paint this for me?" I'll paint it for him because he's my friend. But I'm gonna do my very darndest not to do any more commission work because I can't. I just don't have time for it. Honestly, it's just not worth it. I don't have time for it. It was nice though. It was nice to get that extra to learn that it's not for me, to actually have the experience. And everyone over there at Frontline is really freaking awesome, and they were really nice to me when I told them I was leaving, and they were totally cool about it, and they're all really cool over there. And I recommend that service to anybody because they put out a lot of great work. Dude, some of their level 3 stuff blows my freaking mind. I could never do that. Like the super high level stuff. So gorgeous. So I don't know. It's a good thing for me. I'm gonna finish these 55 scouts. I packed up and sent away the Devastator squads because they were accidentally sent here anyways. So we sent those off, and I'm gonna do that repeat business I was talking about from the last podcast. So that will be my last. That'll be my last project. The repeat customer. What else have I been doing? Well, hobby ADD, man. Like, this is exactly, why I can't be a professional painter because I get all this ADD and I'm like, I want to do fun things. So I've been like making a nuisance of myself on the internet, of course, and also like I decided through peer pressure, and by peer pressure I mean one single comment by Jason Mullins, that I am going to do an Orky advent calendar, Orcs Vent, and
I've been following it.
it's been a lot of fun so far, and I'm gonna try really hard to put out a piece of content every day until Christmas. Just some fun Orky. It doesn't have to be like super detailed or anything, just something fun. Because apparently Black Library Digital Editions has decided there's not going to be any orcs in the advent calendar again. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Last year's advent calendar from Black Library actually contained Xenos stuff. It actually had Tau in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't. I'm sorry. I was swallowing. I'm like, I need water.
Well, your advent calendar is exciting stuff. So we definitely recommend people to check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
Because it's not just about orcs. The first episode, which was Orc Vent 3, because for some reason you kind of accidentally didn't do episode 1 and 2.
That's because Jason told me. Jason suggested it yesterday.
Yeah. So the first episode was actually.
I retroactively made my battle report from the night before, my second one. I went in and said that was day 2, and I released day 4 today.
Yeah, and episode 3, which was technically the first one, was about painting Space Marines.
Yeah.
So you're actually doing everything instead of just doing power armor.
Oh, sure, yeah. Any orc players out there who want to learn how to paint Space Marines needs to watch that video. It's very important.
I'm pretty sure you're saying that just for the clicks.
All right, man. Other than that, I've just been preparing for the tournament this weekend. I'm running that big 1,500 point tournament. It looks like we're gonna have more than 20 people at the store, so that's pretty great.
That is
Uh,
actually really good.
yeah, I'm really excited. A lot of people submitted their lists early. Unfortunately, some people didn't, so they're going to miss out on the 2 battle points you get for submitting your list early. But I guess I have people coming from Western Massachusetts and people from downstate New York and stuff. Got one guy coming from like Philadelphia. I think that's one of my buddy's brothers though. So I'm sure he has other things to do while he's in town. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of people there, and I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to do it. J Holt Music, the our sound our musical director here at Masters of the Forge, is gonna bring an amp so that people can hear me when I'm gonna bring my microphone and be as obnoxious as humanly possible during the tournament. But
So jelly shots all around, and Adam is going to do karaoke on the spot.
these are all good things. It was suggested that I do karaoke, but I'm not sure because it's a Highlander tournament. Here we are, born to be kings. We're the masters of the universe. Ow!
Off key and no background music, just the way it's supposed to be.
So yeah, we might have a little of that going on, but
Yeah.
it's early in the morning. We need to wake people up, right?
Yeah, and you still sound better than Mariah Carey.
So that's it, really. I'm gonna work on these scouts tonight, and then tomorrow, my buddy John is gonna go with me up to the store, bring a bunch of extra terrain up, to and set up probably 11 tables to start, and then tomorrow night I'm gonna stay up to the wee hours building and spray painting the golden sprue cup for this tournament. So that should be fun. I have a docket jet here, so to use as the trophy. So we'll see how you guys will want to keep an eye out for that on our Facebook page because that's going to be glorious.
And I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't sack a couple of Sicarans. Because that Sprue Cup really needs to look a bit like the terrain you can find at Warhammer World, where there's like, yeah, we kind of had some mistcasts over at Forge World, so
Mhm.
we just sawed some. What was it? There was a generator there that was made up of the front half of 4 of those Warhound plasma guns. I was
Oh my
thinking, so
god.
yeah, exactly. Like, how much is that little thing there cost if you were to buy those things and saw it up yourself? It's like, I don't want to know. But
Oh
it's
my
Forge
goodness.
World. So, sorry, it's Forge World miscasts. So probably something really bad happened to the other half of it.
One last thing. I think some of the folks on the Facebook may have noticed that a few nights ago my cat Fritz. Now I know he's like he's like the podcast mascot. He had to go to the vet on an emergency. Apparently, he had an abscessed wound from the other cat in the house, and he was very badly injured, and it had festered pretty badly, and he had to get antibiotics, and I had to sequester him away from the other animal. But he's doing okay now. The vet thinks he's gonna make it. She thinks that the wound will heal over time. It looks really scary. I'm not gonna like go into details, but it's rough. It's pretty bad. But we think he's gonna be okay. We think he's gonna be a pull through. So
Hopefully, there will be Fritz sneezing in the background for later episodes.
yeah, definitely.
So, Adam, at least some of us have been playing some games since last time.
Yeah, man. I had a couple games. And both of the Mondays since we last recorded. My first game, the first week I played, I tried out my Green Tide list again, which is basically the Green Tide formation with a few Power Claws and a War Boss in there, and a Pain Boy in there. But I wanted to try out the Morkanaut that I built, the Voltrork, the Krumpa of the universe.
I
He's
just love
awesome.
that name.
Yeah, he's so good. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna play with him. He's cool. I put like my big mech inside him so I could so I could repair him and keep the big mech alive and whatever. Turns out Markonauts kind of suck.
Did you have a Carl moment?
Yeah, I
Like
had a I
first turn of shooting, it dies.
not the first turn because it does have 5 hull points and a 5+ invulnerable save from the custom force field. But I'm not gonna lie, he's not very good. But I need more than one game to try it out. But in a 1,500 point game, oh yeah, we've been doing 1,500 point games to prepare for the tournament I have coming up this weekend, or if you're listening to this, last weekend. um, yeah, it wasn't good. I did almost win the game though. I mean, he did have to devote some units to it to kill it, and it did take 2 turns to kill it. So see what more can you really ask, to be honest?
It's not too
And
bad.
no, it's all right. And it's fun to have on the field. I think I'd take it in big games with like battle wagons, so that it can like give the battle wagons a save. I think that would be cool in like kind of a mechanized list, but not with the green tide. So I'm better off with using other stuff with the green tide. But I was playing against Tao, so he was really surprised at how fast I was scooting across the board. He was pretty surprised. I did do the infiltrate thing using the warlord trait, but it was still, and I actually think that extra wogs would be better, but that's just me. Uh,
So, do you feel that points wise, the Morkanaut is nice, or like kind of worth it as just like a firing magnet?
No, because it's not. You see it on the field, and you're like, I need to kill it in your initial reaction. But if you play against it once, you're like, oh, it can live, and I don't care. It doesn't really
Okay.
do much. So, it actually it's to your detriment to shoot at the thing. If it were more dangerous, maybe the Gorkanaut would be better because it's got more shots. The Gorkanaut does have the more shots, but I like the force field, so I don't know. It's not like I would never use it again, because I will probably use it again for fun and in a mechanized list, but not with my green tide. So
Yeah.
yeah, I had it one on like 5 and I think 6, but we went to 7 and he wiped me out. So it was good. It was a fun game. Then this past Monday, I brought the bike list out again. I wanted to play my Rippin' and Terran list, which has Zad Snark Darippa and his bikes, and plus also appearing in this film. So this time around, I wanted to try out the large mobs of boys with the bikes, because if you recall from the last episode, I was saying how at Du Bois I was having trouble holding my backfield with everything zooming forward and not really having anything to cap any objectives that ended up in my deployment zone. And also, there wasn't anything really meaty on the table except for maybe Zad Snark's unit with the Pain Boys or Pain Boy. So in this time around, I used our tournament format, which is a Highlander. But since the bikes are troops, I took 3 units of bikes, Zad Snark, a Pain Boy on a bike, and I took 2 like 27-ish man squads of boys with a power claw knob, and I put a Pain Boy in each one of those because I was able to take 2 detachments. And that is awesome. It works so well. I played against my buddy who runs Chaos Space Marines, but I still think that it's a much better, and not only that, much more fun list, because I love slogging those 30 boys, man. They're so great when they have a 5+, feel no pain in there too to supplement their cover save.
Yeah.
So cool. So yeah, zooming forward with the bikes and kind of either capping the objectives or kind of just slowly oozing forward with those boys is kind of like it's almost like I'm going to shoot at these bikes, but those boys are going to be here before too long.
Yeah. Fear the orcs, especially the bike orcs.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
Yeah, so even though you're only on foot, if you're spending a lot of time shooting at like stuff with toughness 5 and like a 3+ or a 4+ cover save, those boys are gonna get there. Especially if you're running
Yeah.
tacos, the Maelstrom missions, because you're gonna have to go forward to grab points at some point, and those boys are gonna be there to launch their attack and assault you with like 100 attacks. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, I had fun in that game. It was kind of one sided. So I just like the Morkanaut, the the badness of the Morkanaut, the goodness of the adding the boys to my bike list is also to be questioned and tested in the future.
I would like to hear that.
Yeah, well, you will. I think that that bike list is kind of like my favorite right now. And if I spent so much freaking money on building it, I might as well play it since it's doing well in this current, universe of wave serpents and bikes and stuff. So it's really cool. Now I am actually after the holidays, I'm going to start working on my demon orcs too. So that it will be my storytelling army, and that's going to be important for the show too. So we'll hear about
Just a
that.
question here then. Does the bike list feel a little less cheesy than your drop pod homemade chapter lists?
Yeah. Oh, it's way less cheesy.
Okay,
It's way
good.
less cheesy. The bikes are nowhere near as good as my Ultramarines and drop pods. That is still very, very good.
Your Ultramarines?
My Ultramarines chapter tactics. Sorry, I missed
yeah.
a sentence. My Ultramarines chapter tactics in a drop pod. It's especially with Marnius Calgar in there. It is just so flexible and so fun to play. But I just love orcs so much. They're
Yeah.
so fun. So whatever, I mean, I'm still playing. I'm still going to be playing the Space Marines. It's just the orcs are my first love, and they'll always be there.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same thing about the Tau being my first love, but right now I'm basically playing my last love because Chaos is the last army that I actually started, and it's the only army I've done well with.
Yeah.
But hey, you have experience being green. Do you remember those Halloween pictures?
Yes. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, we had a good time. I used the airbrush. That worked out really well. The airbrush puts a nice thin layer on your skin so it doesn't crack as much and it doesn't itch as much.
Yeah, and it gives it really good coverage. Wow,
Right.
we really sound like a commercial for cosmetics here. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on, shall we? So I think you have some hobby progress to report this week.
Indeed, because people on our Facebook page have noticed I've actually put up some pictures of miniatures with paint on them.
What?
More paint and even more paint. And they're still not done. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of amazing. I finally got around to putting paint to my Terminators. And they're starting to look, well, I'm not going to say glorious, but quite good.
And goopy.
And smelly and nurgly.
And
nurgly,
yes, exactly.
So there's still some stuff to do. I need to finish up the weapons and dirtify it and rustify it and put some blood on them and some goo and finish the bases. But they're starting to look very good.
Yeah. Oh, it's almost become a trope, right? Like if you see someone's really awesome looking Nurgle models, it's like a trope to reply to the post. Wow, those look awful. Great job.
Yeah. But that is praise. Really is.
Exactly, it is.
So that's one of the things that actually got me started on those. It was like really got me fired up to do those Terminators. Was that I was supposed to work moving one of our stores in 2 weeks' time. That was cancelled. The store is moving. They just didn't need me because, I'm a lazy bum or something. So I'm going to the Apocalypse game that I was forced to cancel, or thought I had to cancel because I had to work. So while my Warhound isn't quite done yet, it's like 8 magnets away from perfection, according to Tim, it won't be here in time. The other guys at the club were kind of disappointed because they really wanted to see, a brass scorpion and a thunderhawk and a warhound duke it out on the table at once.
But you can't rush genius. That's the thing. You can't rush genius.
The only thing I've heard from Tim since he showed me the finished assembly of the legs crushing the tank without the torso is that it looks freaking amazing. I can't wait to see pictures of that thing. But yeah, Apocalypse game, yeah. We're having, I don't know how many 1,000 points we're up to now, but I think we're at least up to 50,000 points. Divided between something like 8 people.
Oh, wow, nice.
So some people are bringing 10,000 points or so of, various things. Our demon player, he has been collecting demons for many, many years. So he has a huge collection. So we're actually separating the table into 2 sort of separate war zones. It's all part of the same fight, but you have the demons against the Grey Knights and everything else, which is going to be Eldar, Imperial Guard, Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines, Tyranids.
Nice.
It's going to be quite a huge mashup. And I'm really looking forward to it.
That sounds like so much fun. I'm not sure when we're going to do Albany Exterminatus again. It's usually like a summer thing for us. So let me know how it went, man. Maybe your buddies can give us some ideas.
Yeah, well, expect pictures and video.
Good. Always love some video from across the seas. Well, I've also can I add one thing? The Hobby Progress Challenge is done. It's over.
Yeah.
We're finished. People need to please get us a picture of your completed army on the Armies on Parade thread. I'm probably going to do a blog post with all the completed armies like I did last year, and I'll post that I'll post a link to that on the Masters of the Forge Facebook page and the Twitter feed.
Speaking of Armies on Parade and pictures, I found my second Kickstarter that I really liked. It's called the Foldio 2, and it's basically a folding picture booth. A light booth, picture booth. It's just folding thing. It looks like magnets on the side, so you can just click the walls together, and there's built-in LED lights, and you can just put stuff in and take pictures of it. I was like, looking at it was like so simple, so ingenious looking. They already did a Foldio, hence the name Foldio 2, which was a smaller version. This one is like 15 inches across and tall and everything. So finally, it's like something I can just fold up and put away when I'm not using it, and something that hopefully will make my miniature pictures look really nice.
I need to get in on that.
Yeah, I've been looking for something like this, but I've never really found a good one. This one looks to be just perfect.
All right, yeah, I'll give that a try, dude. I'll take a look at that.
It wasn't too expensive either. I think it's like $65 or something for the entire thing shipped to your home. A little bit more for me because, international orders and everything, but still reasonable.
Yeah, no, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds freaking awesome. Well, is that it for you there, Snorri? Because I think I'm ready. So.
All right. Yeah, me too.
Let's dive into the meat of the show.
Yes, let's get airborne or spaceborne or something.
Let's dust off and nuke the place from orbit.
Indeed.
Dallas-Fort Worth Nerd Night is a community organization that throws tabletop gaming parties for charity. We believe tabletop gamers are uniquely qualified to build better local communities because of the types of relationships built while gaming. If you'd like to learn more about how you can play games and help people with DFW Nerd Night, check out www.dfwnn.org. That's www.dfwnn.org. Thanks.
And with that, we're actually going to be talking about Battlefleet 40K.
Yep, that's the name we've decided to give this creature that we're giving birth to here.
Yeah, Adam, I think that Battlefleet Attack Wing was kind of lawsuit land.
Yeah, not that Battlefleet 40K is much better.
Yeah. So, but at least it's semi-generic, and it just denotes what system we're talking about. So, exactly. Adam, how on earth did you come up with this idea to merge these systems together?
I love spaceships.
Don't we all?
Oh yeah. Did you want more of an explanation?
No.
No, and actually,
well, yes,
no,
of course I want more explanation, but yeah, go ahead, please.
It needs no more explanation, but I'll give you some. Yeah, I love the ships. I loved Battlefleet Gothic. The ships are awesome, and the fluff is awesome, and we're kind of always we've enveloped ourselves in this universe, right? And at the same time, the mechanics for X-Wing and Star Trek Attack Wing have become obscenely popular. People love this game. It's simple, yet full of complex tactical decisions. It's easy to collect. It's easy to transport. Not only that, but it lends itself to any kind of variant of the genre. So we could use this game for anything. We could run an Aliens game. We could run I don't know, Starship Troopers. We could do anything with this system. It just takes a little bit of tweaking to get to the essence of a specific IP. So for Battlefleet 40K, we've added a few minor things, minor tweaks to the rules to make it feel more like giant cities in space doing battle with each other.
Yeah.
So I think the main point to make here is that in the beginning is that the idea was not to replicate Battlefleet Gothic. The idea was to look at the X-Wing and Attack Wing rules and try to use them in a way that lets us create this story of Warhammer 40,000 in galactic space. Okay, it's to try and emulate that feeling and that emotion and that awesome vista of the lunar class battle cruiser hanging over this huge space hulk and like doing battle with chaos ships over thousands of kilometers, lances arcing out and carving ships up and firepower just slamming into the side of ships. Like that's what we wanted to emulate. And Battlefleet Gothic has a kind of a way of feeling more like a naval combat. And
it really feels, when you put the ships on the table, like you're just looking at miniatures, like blips on the radar screen moving around more than you're like in the ship shooting at stuff. Yeah. It's very different from 40K, or it's like the miniature game 40K.
Yeah. Simply
because there you have you can see each person and you can just imagine that they're running like this and hiding behind corners and shooting. And in Battlefield Gothic, it feels like you're looking top down, kind of clinically at this. I was like, okay, so I'm gonna move this guy here, turn a little bit, and I'm gonna shoot this thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the feel you have in 40K.
Yeah, and another thing that made me want to try something different from Battlefleet Gothic is that the ships are, even though it creates a very interesting game, the ships actually don't need to be as unmaneuverable as they are in Battlefleet Gothic. And another thing is that the rules for Battlefleet Gothic are very hard to understand in a clear way.
It takes a few tries before you kind of get the grasp of it. Yeah.
Right. So I felt like I could do this. I could make this game. I could make this game using the X-wing and attack wing rules, and I could actually convince more of the players at my local store to give it a try and to maybe use it in campaigns and stuff like that, so that we could have even richer, storytelling experiences at the store and in our group.
And let's just be open about this right away. X-wing is super easy to learn, really hard to master.
Yeah, it's true. I think that's a good segue into how the game is played. So I'm gonna kind of touch on a few points specifically where the rules differ as we go through how the game is played, and I think that's really a good way to do it. Now, Snorri, you've played X-wing before, right?
A little bit,
right? And so that you really understand just by having played it. You really do understand what we're looking at here. So, in essence, you have a ship on a plastic clear base, and that ship has a dial that goes with it that tells you what maneuvers you can take. You at the beginning of the game, during the planning phase, you select a maneuver on your dial and put it upside down on the mat next to your ship. In initiative order, depending on your pilot in X-wing, or in the case of attack wing, your captain, you go in reverse initiative order, revealing your maneuver. You take the right template. So when you move, you have three different kinds of templates: a straight template, a bank template, and a turn template. The bank is a very gentle, I think like 12.5 degree turn, or like 20-degree turn. An actual turn is like a full 90-degree move. And those can either be 1, 2, or 3 in length. Those aren't actually inches, but
Yeah, it's a number 1 turn is a really tight turn. A number 2 turn is a slightly longer turn, and a 3 is a very gentle turn, but they all end up at 90 degrees.
Yeah. And the banks are very similar. The banks are 1, 2, and 3, but at a more gentle curve. The straights go out to 4 or 5, and I think in Star Trek Attack Wing there's even a 6 straight maneuver. And each of these maneuvers has a degree of difficulty, and they're represented by colors: green, white, and red. Green maneuvers are very easy, and if you perform a green maneuver, there's usually something you can do in addition, or the green maneuver triggers something that happens on a lot of cards. And a white maneuver is just a regular maneuver. Usually nothing is triggered on a white maneuver. And a red maneuver is difficult. And when you perform a red maneuver, you receive an auxiliary power token in Star Trek Attack Wing. I'm not sure what it's called in X-Wing, but
yeah, it basically penalizes you if you do it. But
right.
the penalty is to offset that. It gives you strategic advantage to make this turn.
Mm-hmm.
It can be you're sacrificing your attacks this turn in order to get into a really good shooting position next turn.
Yep. And it in actuality, a green maneuver will remove that auxiliary power token. Otherwise, if you've got a auxiliary power token on your ship, you may not perform actions or another red maneuver until you've cleared it. So you go through each of your ships, your ships perform the maneuver that you reveal, and then after you perform your maneuver, you perform an action. Again, if you performed a red maneuver, you're not going to be able to perform an action. Um, but some ships and some captains give you extra actions, but we're not going to go into any crazy nonsense like that. At least not right now. Just
Yeah.
trying to give everyone a basic idea of how the game works.
And also, if you're wondering how to play X-Wing, Fantasy Flight has made some really nice movies on YouTube and on their webpage where you can see exactly how the different phases work and how the game is played. And they are really good.
Yeah.
Even if you don't play X-Wing, you can watch these and get an idea of what this game we're talking about is all about.
Right. I actually forgot to talk about some of the differences in maneuvers. Before we go into actions, there are two important things to remember that are different in Battlefleet 40K than they are in one or both of the other systems. And the first thing is, if you're overlapping another ship, you can still attack. You don't get your actions because you're spending time trying to avoid close range shots, trying to avoid the actual ship itself, but you can still shoot. Unlike an X-Wing, when you're dealing with very large ships, even when ships are touching, they could be like a kilometer apart. So that you can still take your shots. Also in Battlefleet 40K, there are two specific actions you can take while touching, but we'll get into that later.
The next one took me a bit of time to understand, because if you're making a turn that is a 90-degree turn, let's say that your ship is pointing with the nose up, or nose to the north. You make a 90-degree right turn, you expect the nose to be facing east. But that's not quite it. You're moving a really big ship in a 90-degree turn. You actually need to tilt the ship another 90 degrees, as in facing down or south, and fire up your main engines in order to stall this turn and make sure you're actually pointing the right way.
Yep, that's right. Like if a very big ship would not be able to stop its forward momentum on thrusters alone. It would actually have to execute like a 90-degree turn in order to use its main thrusters to stop moving forward. So in Battlefleet 40K, when you perform an actual turn maneuver with a cruiser, you have to make you have to rotate your base 90 degrees in the direction that you were turning.
An additional 90 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. So when you execute a 90-degree turn, you're actually facing the opposite direction you were before you made the turn.
So yeah, it's not easy to visualize this, but take a look at the rules and you will see what we're talking about, because Adam has made some really nice pictures of how this works.
Cool, thanks, buddy. So that's it for the differences kind of in the movement phase. So in Battlefleet 40K, we have three different ship types. The first ship type, and probably the most important, are the capital ships. This is why we play the game. They're the standard ships. They're in Battlefleet 40K. There are three basic ship types. The first is the capital ship. This is going to be your standard ship that you want to use. This is the ship we always wanted to use in Battlefleet Gothic too. Like your cruisers, your battleships, your battle cruisers, your light cruisers, that sort of thing. Most of the rules described in the game involve capital ships. When there is an exception to the rule is when we deal with the other types of ships. Most of the arcs on most of the ships in the game are to broadsides, especially considering like especially where the Imperial ships and the Chaos ships are involved. Now, when you start talking about orcs and Eldar, that's a different story entirely.
And if we implement Tau at some point, if we're staying true to the original Battlefleet Gothic rules, then the concept of front arc or side arcs gets kind of fluid because they can usually have the front weapon shoot front, right, left. The side weapons can either usually shoot both left and front, and it's like, okay, you can shoot pretty much everywhere because it's all about focus fire.
Right, and you'll find in Battlefleet 40K that a lot of that, the firing arcs and stuff and the different kinds of weapons have been generalized quite a bit to cut down on complexity. The next kind of ship is the escort. Escorts fly in squadrons of 3 to 5, kind of like in Battlefleet Gothic, but in this case they're on a single base. Now this doesn't exist in X-Wing, but it does exist in Star Trek Attack Wing.
Yeah, it's also in Star Wars Armada, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And, I haven't gotten my hands on those rules yet, but it does look interesting. But I kind of wanted to go with what works now. Instead of delving into those new rules, I wanted to use something that everybody is used to and kind of not reinvent the wheel in my head anyways. So
yeah.
They're basically you put a bunch of ships on a base, and let's be honest, you could take one of your escorts and put it on a base, and there it is. That represents a squadron of escorts.
Yeah,
and
I personally, I would with my Tau fleet collection, I would just put the smallest ships on a base, like one ship per base. And this is a squadron.
Yeah, exactly, and that'll give us the opportunity to to really just play whatever fleet you want. And let's be honest, they are monetarily very expensive,
and weight wise, they're very expensive. I guess that's sort of a valid word to use here, because yes, you will have massive upper arms if you play Battlefield Gothic with my fleet. It's all metal.
Yeah. Orc ships, orc cruisers, good lord, they would break their posts all the time. Like I had to during games, I made sure to have a lighter handy so I could burn the tip of the post and smush it into the hole of the cruiser so that it would stay on.
That's actually not a bad idea.
Right?
I tried to green stuff the hole a little bit smaller simply because the ships would be wobbly on top of the poles. That didn't work.
No,
the green stuff just pops out.
Yeah, so what you do is you get a candle lit, you light a candle, and you get a metal poker and heat the end of the poker and ream out the hole. That'll ream out the plastic in the hole. Then you burn the tip, you light the tip of the post on fire and jam it into the hole and hold it for a little bit, and boom, done. It's fixed. You just have to be devoted to the I paint my bases black thing instead of clear. That's the only thing. You'll want to paint your bases black because you'll always end up with black tips or posts.
Yeah.
The Masters of the Forge does not condone the burning of plastics inside your house due to hydrocarbon poisoning and general bad decisions. Thank you.
So, moving on. I guess that was this segment's hobby tip.
Yeah. No, that was good. And escorts, basically they get worse the more damage they take. So you have like little chits on the card itself, and for every quote unquote hull point it takes, or for every damage it takes, you pull one of these chits off and it reveals like a higher agility because there's less of them and it's harder to hit them, but a lower attack value. So the less ships there are, the harder it is to hit, but the more ships there are, the more damage they do. Now fighters are a whole new thing for this system, and I think these are actually are going to be acting a little bit more like the fighters in Armada. Like I said, I haven't seen the rules yet, but these are actually very similar to the Battlefleet Gothic fighters.
In Battlefleet Gothic, fighters are a catch-all phrase for any very small craft with between 1 and 30 crew. They are represented on the table by circular cardboard chits. Some launch bays or other upgrades may allow you to launch unique fighters, Otherwise, they are treated as ships with 0 captain skill, 1 attack, 2 agility, 1 hull point, and 0 shields. Fighters are allowed to move up to 2 forward, or any fraction thereof, in any direction when they move, and do not need to use a maneuver dial during the planning phase. Unless otherwise noted, fighters may take no actions in the perform action step.
So they're basically just a squadron of fighters is just a cardboard chit that sits on the battlefield and can move up to a 2 in any direction during the moving phase. That's it. So fighters make their ranged attacks at a maximum range of 1, but they don't receive a bonus to their attack die for any reason. So, some cards in the game will give you a +1 attack to any friendly ship within range 1 or 2 or whatever. Fighters would get really powerful if you started stacking bonuses like that. So fighters don't benefit from those, and it kind of makes fluffy sense where it would be less likely that they'd be tied into any kind of communication network or anything like that. That would be
big targeting computers on cruisers and such probably wouldn't be able to talk to fighters, because fighters are moving too fast and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and the cruisers, they kind of rely on predictable slow movements.
Yeah, and as a captain's, say a captain has an ability that says all ships within range whatever get +1 to their defense. Is a captain really going to talk directly to each and every fighter pilot, or is he just going to quickly shout an order to a nearby cruiser to avoid, a shot that's coming at it or something like that? So there might be cards that specifically say all fighters within range whatever of this ship get a bonus. Now that might be something that happens because that's specifically balanced for fighters. So that's something you might see later. Fighters can also combine their might into stacks, just like in Battlefleet Gothic. Now it's I tried to make this a little less confusing for this game. So they can be stacked atop one another by the controlling player at any time during the fighter's activation phase. When stacked in this manner, they are treated as one ship instead of many. Their attack value is equal to the total attack value of all the squadrons in the stack. The stack's defense is equal to the lowest defense of all the fighters in the stack. And whenever the stack takes enough damage to remove one or more squadrons, the controlling player removes the chits of their choice from the stack. In this way, you can use less powerful fighters to screen for stronger ones. So, say you have one ship that has a card upgrade called Thunderhawk Gunships. So, it can actually launch more powerful fighters called Thunderhawk Gunships. But it only launches one at a time or something. So, you could have another ship launch regular fighters and stack those on top of the Thunderhawk, and then move it across the battlefield. So the other ship will be putting weapons fire into that stack of fighters. But hopefully by the time that stack reaches the enemy, the Thunderhawk is still alive and it can deliver its payload. That's generally the idea.
Yeah, this is very much like the whole fighter-bomber combo that you have in Battlefield Gothic.
Right.
Where fighters have a certain job to do, bombers have a certain job to do, but if you're attacking other capital ships, then you would use fighters to screen the bombers so that the bombers can go in and just nuke the hell out of those capital ships.
Yeah, so the kind of the idea with this system is that I was trying to create a way to have greater variety in the small craft, while at the same time maintaining a level of complexity that's rather low. As you can see, there's no rules involving ships canceling each other out and fighters canceling each other out and specific targets for turrets, whatever. It's very much dumbed down a little bit, because this game is meant to be played quickly, and I actually considered not involving fighters at all. because that's one of the things that got to be very laborious was the ordnance phase from Battlefleet Gothic. Even though it was cool, I liked the idea, especially the torpedoes, where my orcs would just send a screen of torpedoes downfield and just follow them in, like, forcing the enemy to kind of turn away. That was actually pretty cool. But in this game, I wanted it to be like a 1 hour, kind of game experience.
Yeah. Well, you're basically also describing what torpedoes are really good for a Space Marine fleet, from my experience at having faced it a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
You're just shooting torpedoes out, forcing the opponent to choose a certain path so that you can take him down.
Yeah, so you can kind of plan. It's like you chuck them down, and you can kind of do the same thing with the fighters, right? So like if you wanted to use a similar strategy, you could send out a few waves of fighters in one direction, and then plan your maneuver to head in the direction that the fighters aren't. And your opponent can either choose to wade into the fighters and risk it, or go the direction you want them to go in. Either way, you're looking pretty good.
And then there's turrets. During a ship's attack phase, it may first roll 2 attack dice against each stack of enemy fighters within range 1. These attack dice may not be modified. That's basically your close-range defense guns, just trying to shoot down as much as possible before, the fighters getting really close.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And, if you have elite fighters, so again, going back to the Thunderhawk gunship, I would assume that when we do make those cards, that the Thunderhawk gunship will have a pretty high captain skill, as compared to other fighters. So the Thunderhawk might actually get its shots in before the turrets of a ship are able to react, which makes sense for a savvy Space Marine pilot, in my opinion.
Just read Black Library novels to see that.
Yeah,
they're
no
basically
kidding.
Yeah. I've been reading a couple of Space Marine, Space Wolf books lately, and it seems like these pilots are. The ship is screaming; it's about to tear itself apart. It should. Any normal pilot would have stopped long ago, but this Space Marine, he's just gunning for it, and just going all out, making these wild turns that no one would have expected this thing to endure. The ship kind of holds together long enough for them to do the job, and then it's like, okay, so I died, but message got home, we're in the clear, time to explode.
Yeah, Spear of Macragge, the pilot from Spear of Macragge, he was no joke.
Yeah,
that was good. That was real good. Now, Snorri, do you want to go over the actions people can perform?
I can do that. There are several actions that you can take, just as in Battlefleet Gothic. You have Come to New Heading and Ram. These are pretty much exactly like they are in Battlefleet Gothic. You can only do a Come to New Heading if you have performed a green maneuver this turn. And when executing this action, a capital ship may pivot up to 90 degrees, or a squadron of escorts may pivot up to 180 degrees, in addition to whatever move they made. A pivot may not be the full 90 or 180 degrees, respectively. So you can turn 60 degrees, or 62 degrees, or 61.
Yeah.
And then you place an auxiliary power token next to the ship that perform the action. Because it takes a little bit of extra effort to do this, and that's where those power tokens come in.
Yeah, so this kind of represents... This is something that you would never be able to do in Battlefleet Gothic, because they're assuming that you're in a river or something. I'm not sure what they're assuming, but you're in space. There's no resistance. There's zero resistance at all. So basically...
There's only inertia.
Yeah, there's only... Exactly. So if you only perform a green maneuver... That means that you're kind of using the momentum you already have, right? You've already got momentum, and you're using your thrusters to turn your ship around and thrust in the opposite direction and get yourself pointed in a completely different direction. But it takes all of your effort to do that. So you don't move very far, but you actually get to point yourself in any direction you please. Up to the number of degrees that your ship, like if you have a like Snorri just said, if you're a capital ship it's 90, if you're escorts it's 180.
And just to let you know what a green maneuver is, that's usually moving forward by doing a number 2 forward movement.
Yep.
Because that's basically you're just sliding along just the same speed and direction that you were initially. You're not trying to slow down or speed up.
Yep, that's
or turn.
Basic running speed.
Yep.
Now we come to another universal action that any ship can perform, which is the ram. This is one of those actions that you're allowed to perform if you're touching another ship. In fact, you can't perform it any other time, except when you're touching another ship. So when you ram another ship, you roll a number of attack dice equal to your starting hull value, and add +1 if you only executed a straight maneuver this turn, and did not use the come about action. So like if you've got multiple actions and whatever, and you do this, you don't get it. You don't get the extra die if you came about or if you turned at all. You must re-roll all hits and crits before making further adjustments to the dice. So it's a little tougher to actually get the hit in. The ramming ship takes half as much damage rounded up. So you take, for every point of damage you deal to your opponent, you take half as much rounded up. So if you do 1 damage to them, they do 1 damage to you. Damage from a ram ignores shields for both the ramming ship and its victim. The defending ship may roll agility to avoid the damage, yet the ramming ship may not. Both ships may use brace for impact tokens to avoid the damage. In a roundabout way, that's just basically lets you slam into another ship and do a little bit of damage without going right through the shields.
And last, we have the one universal action that is not from BFG at all, and that is re-enable. You may use this action to remove a single disabled token from a card. And what is disabled?
A disabled token is added to an upgrade for certain reasons. Like if you have a torpedo, you disable the torpedo when you fire it, and you'll have to re-enable it later. This is very similar to some of the BFG stuff like ordnance and everything like that, how you had to like reload at every turn.
Yeah, and that was actually a die roll, so you could fire your torpedo and then not be able to fire it because you simply failed every single reload ordnance roll. And that was really annoying.
Yeah. But those are all the universal actions. Again, those are actions that any ship can perform. All right, specific actions are not I would have to say, how do I put it? Specific actions aren't a sure thing. You're not guaranteed to have the ability to perform these specific actions. Specific actions are located on your ship's card, and they can also be granted by certain upgrades.
Yeah, and if it's not on the card, you don't get to use it.
That's right. The first specific action we're going to talk about is battle stations. Battle stations is called focus in X-Wing. Basically, the dice for attack and defense all have a success side, a blank side, and a not success or blank. And that not success can become a success in some situations. So when you perform the battle stations action, you put a token next to your ship. And you can use that token at any time to turn all of your battle stations results on attacks into hits, or all of your battle stations results on defense, on evade, into successes there when defending. So that's basically exactly the same thing. Almost every ship gets that. Next, we have boarding actions. This is another new action. So this is the second action you may perform if you're touching another ship. Some ships are manned with elite troops capable of daring ship-to-ship transfers using teleporters or short-range transports. Boarding actions may normally only be performed when 2 ships are touching. This is an exception to the normal rule that a ship may not perform actions when touching another ship. When a ship performs this action, roll half its remaining hull and attack dice rounded up. against any one ship in base contact. You do not roll your normal defense dice against these attacks. Instead, you roll up to half of your remaining hull in defense dice rounded up to represent your crew responding to the threat. You also may not use brace for impact tokens to avoid this damage. So it basically represents, right now, the Chaos ships all have boarding actions, and they basically teleport over, or there's like broadside torpedo, like mini torpedo launchers that you put Space Marines in, or Chaos Beasties in, and you shoot them over and cause havoc on the other ship.
And of course, if your ship is really busted and you're trying to attack an almost perfect ship, you're not going to launch a lot of these boarding torpedoes, so you're going to have trouble.
You've zeroed in on my thinking with the remaining hull situation where you've kind of run out of resources.
Yeah, and the reverse is also that if you have a really an almost untouched ship attacking an almost destroyed ship, most of the crew trying to defend this place is going to be dead.
Yes, either dead or trying to make the ship not catch fire.
Yeah, so that's basically the idea behind that. The next two rules would be brace for impact, which is to place a brace for impact token next to your ship, and these work exactly the same as evade tokens. So if you're about to collide, you can use a brace impact to evade.
That's right. Yeah, it basically gives you just an immediate success result on when you're defending. That's pretty much, and the cool thing about brace for impact tokens is there's a few situations in the game where you're not allowed to roll defense dice, but you are allowed to use your brace for impact tokens. So that's a key important thing to realize.
Yes. And next up is launch fighters. All launch bays may launch a set number of fighter squadrons. The default number is 2. And each launched squadron may then immediately make a move.
That's right. So we've already talked about fighters. This just shows you that this is a specific action that you can only perform if your ship has the action. It is also possible, I believe, in the future we'll make it possible to add, have an upgrade that is fighter bays, which will add this action to your action bar.
I expect this to be an upgrade for orc ships. They're basically just going to bolt some stuff on there and it's going to launch fighters.
Yeah, pretty much, man. I can't wait to make the orc rules because like orc rocks will be basically just like nothing and you just add cards to
it. It has an engine. It has to have an engine. But that's it, yeah.
Or better, if it doesn't have an engine, just put it on the side of the table and all it can do is make 2 forward actions the entire game. And it's just floating through the battlefield, going in one direction the entire time.
That actually works really well.
Doesn't it?
Simply because that could be our entire objective. Stop the rock.
Yeah, actually, that sounds awesome. See all the great ideas that we're coming up with already.
Yes, and it's not even in the set rules yet.
So the next action is target lock. Everybody should be familiar with target lock. You put a token on your ship, and you put a token on an enemy ship, and you can maintain a target lock indefinitely. And then you use it at any time. You discard it at any time to reroll any attack dice in an attack against that ship. It's also sometimes used to fire some secondary weapons, like torpedoes. And the last action is called Reload Ordnance. This is very similar to the ability from Battlefleet Gothic. It allows you to remove all disabled tokens from all your weapons, all your launch bays, and all your tech upgrades. One of the tough things about, I don't think it's so true for X-Wing, but in Star Trek Attack Wing, you can really start racking up disable tokens all over your ship until you have absolutely no hope of ever getting enough actions to clear them all. So a ship with the Reload Ordnance, I would say things like, I could see that being added to Mechanicum ships, possibly Tau ships. It just allows you to just remove all your disabled tokens and you're fine.
Yeah.
But you do have to spend an action doing it.
Yeah. Damn those automated repair bots.
Yeah, exactly. So Snorri, do you want to give us the initiative order for all the factions in Battlefleet 40K?
In the event of a tie between captains of the different factions on the table, you actually have a set order of initiative that you go to. And at the top, we have the Eldar. That is both the Eldar and the Dark Eldar. Then you have the Forces of Chaos, the Imperium of Man, that is Imperial Navy and Space Marines, Orcs, Necrons, and then Tyranids last.
Oh, I forgot to put Tau, didn't I?
Yes, you did. I'm not sure. Either just above or just below Imperium of.
I think you're right, and I think like so, and I actually think that Tau after we get Chaos and the Imperial Men, I think we should do Tau first because you have a fleet. Makes it worth it.
You really need to do your orcs at the same time. Maybe we should do that orcs versus Tau expansion.
That would actually work, and we could play test it at Adepticon.
Indeed.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. What do you think? I think this could be a lot of fun, and I really hope people will play test it.
I was reading this before the episode to familiarize myself with this game, with the whole how the card, with all the stats on the cards was like, okay, is this like a hit point thing that we're looking at the card? There was number 4 and the number 3s and some greens and some reds, and I didn't really recognize this because I've never played Star Trek Attack Wing, and I'm pretty sure that's where you stole it from.
Mm-hmm.
And you just started walking me through this, and I was looking at the rules, and it's like, you know what? I want to try this. Simply because it actually looks like a fun game to play Battlefleet Gothic. Not because Battlefleet Gothic is boring, but because it's ridiculously complicated. At least it seems to be. I know Jim is going to hate me right now. Jim, I'm sorry. But yeah, Battlefleet Gothic is a great game, but it's not the easiest game to get started with. So, you need a couple of friends and you need a couple of evenings and some ships to play with.
And
just
you have
to get
to
the
have
hang of
willing
it.
friends.
Yes.
Who are willing to do it. And that can be very, very hard to say, hey, do you have 5 hours to commit to play one game of this that you might not even like and is also very expensive? So, like, it's tough. So I think that this will hopefully give maybe some of the players in your group, it might get them interested in Warhammer 40K in a different way. And to expand on your campaigns. We've also included some ships on the site. Just a few Imperial ships, a few Chaos ships. I hope to add a few more cards before the show goes up, but if not, rest assured we'll be adding more and more as time goes on. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us here at our Facebook page or on our email,
which is
mastersoftheforge@gmail.com.
Yep.
Last thing before we close out the segment, I want to thank Phil, my buddy Phil, for helping me playtest the game so far, and I have a few fellows from the IC's forum who are also helping playtest. Hopefully we can get more of you out there in Radio Land to help us playtest this and spread the word.
Go Internet Spaceship Power.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
Interested in the offbeat world of 40K? Is your bits box full of 20-year-old space elves? Have you ever searched for something out of production 40K on eBay? Well, hold on to your zotes and head over to Corsair Radio. It covers the full scope of the hobby, homebrew rules, fluff, campaigns, oddball models, and more. From Terra to the Eye of Terror, visit us at corsairradio.blogspot.com. That's corsairradio.blogspot.com.
And with that, we are actually going to do something kind of, I guess, just experimentally talking about something that's got to do with fluff, but not really our thing.
Well, it's got everything to do with bringing 40K to life on your tabletop, though. So
Yeah, it's actually
totally.
not. Yeah, it's actually not one of our projects. It's a guy named David Schuster who
Mhm.
poked us and said, "I have come into a large Dark Angels army. My problem is I don't like the Dark Angels fluff. So my idea was to make a chapter that has pretty much denounced the Dark Angels and L. Johnson. But making it make sense with the fluff seems a little tricky, because I know there's one chapter that has done this already, but are still in good terms with the Dark Angels. I want a little twist in the fact that if the two chapters were to meet in the same place at the same time, they would cut each other down."
Right. And I thought this was interesting, and I thought that seems like a very tenuous position to be in. But he had another caveat that I thought really tied it up really nicely in a bow for us. And I don't obviously he didn't he personally didn't see it at first, and I hope that this little kind of fluff for review, if you will give him the right ideas to move forward. He also wanted the group the group of Space Marines, this chapter, to follow a Inquisitor into battle, basically doing the Inquisitor's dirty work. So the Inquisitor is basically it's an Ordo Xenos Inquisitor, because it all comes from him playing with his friends he's got two Necron players, a Orc player, and I think it was a Tau. I'm not sure, but all four of his friends play Xenos armies, and so he wanted to have an excuse to have this cool Ordo Xenos Inquisitor fighting them, in his stories on his own tabletop. So he wanted to know if it was known at all for a Space Marine chapter to follow an Inquisitor.
Personally, I don't know, because the Inquisition usually uses the Death Watch or the
Mm-hmm.
Grey Knights when
Yeah,
they need to deal with stuff. So a whole chapter, sort of like inquisitorial retinue,
mhm.
don't think it's been done, but
Yeah,
there's so many thousands of chapters. I have no idea. Well, actually, technically, there's supposed to be 1,000 chapters.
yeah.
We know of 50, 60 of them. There's several hundred to take from,
Right.
and it's pretty sure that you can find some excuse to do that.
Right. And on the other side of the coin, how likely is it that two loyalist Dark Angels chapters are going to be at each other's throats at any given time? And that is so like this gentleman has presented us with quite the quandary. And it I think that our natural path of resistance should lead towards, let's see what we can do to make it happen. Because normally, if this were a internet message board full of fluff nerds, I think that this poor gentleman might have a problem on his hands. But fret not. This is the Masters of the Forge. We accept all kinds, all fluff
Yes.
bunnies of all shapes and sizes. And I
Yeah.
think we've come up with a great way to show how this would have happened.
Yeah. Now, before we dive into that, I would just like to cover one of the misreadings that I did
Mhm.
of his problem, because he was talking about another chapter that has done this and are still on good terms. And I was thinking, so basically you want to have your chapter renounce them, but not have a problem with the Dark Angels themselves, but there being another chapter who has done the same thing, you would be at the throat of this other breakaway faction, or this other breakaway chapter. That would be interesting, because on the one hand, yours like, we don't like you quite as good as we should do, but we're still okay. But how dare those other guys do that? And that kind of double standard, I think, is very Dark Angel-y,
Yep,
considering,
very Dark Angel.
we're not evil, yet we're going to be quite evil in the way we hunt down our former buddies.
Which definitely leads me to the reason why these two chapters would be at each other's throats. Apparently, this Dark Angel's successor found out something they should not have. Nobody in this successor has anybody in the inner circle They're a far removed group of Space Marines. Even though they share gene seed, they really don't share secrets. But they did find out about something going on in the Dark Angels that doesn't smell good, something that doesn't seem right. And unfortunately, the Dark Angels have found out that they hold this knowledge, and not only that, being the loyal Imperial citizens they are, they're gonna look for ways to expose them.
Yeah, and just look at how the Dark Angels view Cypher.
Ugh.
These guys would probably be considered just as bad as that guy.
Yeah, except a whole chapter of Cyphers, basically. Well, maybe not with his skill, but,
Yeah.
but with some kind of knowledge, some kind of blackmail that they have over them.
Yeah.
Now, why haven't they revealed it? What is it that they have to reveal? You know what? Best to just not say. I wouldn't get too much into detail about that. Part of the fun is the mystery.
And I would say it's probably likely that this Inquisitor that happens to have an entire chapter of Space Marines at his command has some kind of dirt on the Dark Angels or this chapter, simply because how else would he be able to control them and maybe even prevent them from spilling the beans under threat of, oh, I'll just sick the entire Inquisition on you.
Mm-hmm. So enter our Ordo Xenos Inquisitor, who is he's looking for his own personal army to fight this wave of orcs, necrons, and tyranids that are invading his sector. He really, not only that, but our listener here has described the Inquisitor as having dreams of someday of becoming a Space Marine. Maybe we might suggest some cyber augments. You said maybe alien tech or something, to kind of just to model this character. I think this Inquisitor is going to be a really cool hobby challenge for our listener here. Anyways, the Inquisitor has the means and the power to protect this chapter from the Dark Angels. So David, I think that this is a great way to handle that relationship. The chapter could sustain itself, but only with the protection of that Ordo Xenos Inquisitor, and they would basically be beholden to him for the at least until that Xenos Inquisitor survives. So not only do they need to take his orders, but they're also invested in his survival. Everything they do would be to keep him alive and keep his mission going. So it might even come to it that the apothecaries will get involved. Who knows?
Yeah, there was no small order to keeping an Inquisitor alive when he's on a mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So a few other things. David was a little concerned about the possibility of using bolter drill, using the
Imperial Fist
Imperial
chapter
Fist
tactics.
Chapter tactics for his chapter. What do you think about that, Snorri?
I see absolutely no reason why you shouldn't. Because if you want to, you don't. Since this is a breakaway chapter, there's no reason why they should have to use the Dark Angels chapter tactics.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%, Snorri. I actually think that bolter drill is a really interesting choice because even though like they're trying to break away from the Dark Angels and be a more, I would assume maybe a more Codex Astartes adherent chapter, it's possible that they're trying too hard, or they're too much. They're still trying to learn their way. So bolter the Imperial Fist chapter tactics seem more raw and more undisciplined than the Ultramarines chapter tactics, which I would think is synonymous with Codex Astartes, like rigid kind of chapter tactics.
Yeah.
So I think it totally makes sense for your chapter, dude. I would explain it. I would explain it that way, and I think it would work great.
Yep.
So he had some units here that he wanted to use.
Yeah. As David goes, as the years have gone by, they have very few land raiders and dreadnoughts, but managed to have a large number of bikes and drop pods. I want to go infantry heavy with a lot of special weapons and psychers, and also their very unfortunate ties to Ordo Xenos Inquisitor. So we have already covered the Inquisitor and a little bit about why should he be there, what kind of questions you want to ask yourself to cover that part, but let's go into the units.
Right. So I'm thinking, recon for the bikes. Bikes move forward with recon. Then you have, drop pods and, cavalry and drop pods that come in after. I think that's a solid way to go, at least competitively, and also thematically. I mean, these guys are always on the hunt, right? They're
Yes.
always on the hunt for the Inquisitor, and it makes sense that the Inquisitor should be in a drop pod with a very nice and meaty unit of Space Marines, or possibly, he doesn't say anything about it, but maybe even in Terminator armor, deep striking with some Terminators too. That could also be a possibility. Do you think the Space Marine should still have like a chapter master, right, or a captain
Yeah.
of some kind?
I would say Chapter Master is excellent for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually going to go into something related to the whole units, simply because if you're having very few land raiders, to me that would be indicative of a spacefaring chapter,
Good point.
or crusading if you want. And at the same time, a normal crusading chapter would have no problem maintaining land raiders. These guys don't, so maybe that's a hasty escape from the Dark Angels.
Yeah.
Either because they didn't denounce the Dark Angels, or the Dark Angels denounced them.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't really have time to gather a fleet.
Ooh, Snorri, how about this? How about maybe part of their story is that the Dark Angels found out about their knowledge. The Dark Angels tried to attack their monastery, their fortress monastery, and either destroyed most of their equipment or captured most of the equipment before they had a chance to flee on the inquisitorial cruiser.
Very colorful. Me personally, I would tone it down a little bit and can take it as okay, they know the secrets. Lionel Johnson, or maybe not him, but maybe just some Dark Angels realize that more people know these secrets and are supposed to. And basically, comes to the point where, okay, we have to go now, or else we are going to get hunted down. And of course, in the escape, they announced to the entire chapter that we know because that's why we're running, and then they become hunted anyways.
Now, I like that better, Snorri. It doesn't. I think avoiding actual conflict before any happens on the tabletop is a good idea.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to go into too much into cheese territory, and I think it's possible to do that here. And I think just a hasty retreat, leaving a bunch of crap behind, we can get more stuff later. Don't worry about it. And they get assistance from the Inquisitor's small fleet, and they book it the hell out of there.
Yeah, and to me, that this hasty retreat is fairly easily explained with, you don't really commandeer several strike cruisers if you're making a hasty escape, because that's going to be noticed right away. And you can't really just hijack them, because I don't think you can just hijack a strike cruiser. It takes too much.
Dark Angel's fleet is so big, though. They might have actually had a couple small strike cruisers that are just theirs for their chapter, but you're not gonna make off with a freaking what are they, battle barge or anything like that.
Yeah. So I think that's a reasonable, non-cheesy way of going about why they have so few Land Raider and Dreadnoughts, simply because they didn't have time to gather up everything, because if they took that time, they probably would have been discovered.
Right. And they might be a young enough chapter. If you decide to go the way we're discussing, they might be a pretty young chapter, and they may not really have many Dreadnoughts to begin with.
Yes.
All right, man. I think we've given
Psychers?
Oh, Psychers, right. So David also says he wants lots of psychers. I think that's easily explained. There's a freaking Inquisitor, right? So actually, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, most Inquisitors are psychers, right?
Yep.
So I can imagine he can tell when, when a Space Marine has the gift. But aren't they actually found out when they're made that they're psychically strong?
Yeah, they're usually detected quite early because usually they are psychers to begin with, and then they're given Space Marine training and made into some librarians.
So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how to explain that there's extra psychers in the army.
Maybe maybe their gene seed just has a propensity to create them.
Maybe.
Or maybe boost weak psychers into quality psychers.
Mm-hmm. That could be true. That could be true. I can see that.
So, right. I guess we can summarize this as we like the they know too much angle. That gives you a really nice way of explaining why there's a schism between the Dark Angels and your own chapter.
Mm-hmm. And it also gives us a great opportunity for adding that Inquisitor in like all of your games as a major part of your army. So, yeah, kudos to you. I hope this helps you out, and I hope more people submit quandaries to us in the future for more Fluff for Review segments. I like that other podcasts have lists for review, and we have Fluff for Review. I want to do more of these just because we do that. Because of that similarity.
Yeah, but at the same time, let us just say that we do this because we liked what we heard and we decided to do this. So don't expect us to do this like every other week.
No, certainly not. And it has to be interesting and fun. Keep it interesting and fun. And feel free to if you have a fully fleshed out background, we love to hear about it. A lot of folks send us their ideas for their own fluff, and we love hearing about it. It gives us ideas for our own content, for sure.
It's also very inspiring for the people who listen to the show.
Absolutely. All right, Snorri, I think we're done here. You want to end this segment and close out the show?
Yeah. Take it away, Wendy.
Go, Wendy, go.
Are you looking for a good hobby blog? Are you in need of a tutorial? Maybe you just want some inspiration to help you get started. Well, look no further than the 40K Hobbyist. Drew is a 40K hobby veteran with more than a decade of GW hobby experience under his belt. Follow one man's journey through the hobby as he dabbles in new experiences such as Forge World Titans, building terrain tables, starting new Space Marine chapters, and much, much more. Stop in for modeling tips, tutorials, bits theory discussions, and just to see some darn cool models. If you have any questions, you can always email him, leave a comment on his blog, or reach him through Facebook. He's always willing to do whatever he can to help expand the hobby and make you feel the best painter that you can be. Stop in and check out the 40K Hobbyist at 40khobbyist.blogspot.com. That's 40khobbyist.blogspot.com, or find him on Facebook.
I guess we're done.
Mr. Snorri.
Yes.
Engage the warp drive.
All ahead full.
All ahead full. Straight on till morning.
Ramming speed.
Ramming. Wong. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you for joining us. Next week, we are taking a sabbatical for Christmas. This is a very good decision. I like this decision a lot.
It is going to free up several hours of us just sitting here talking to a wall while listening to the other guy. You know, having to prepare those long and tedious notes. And, you know, it's time taken away from painting.
Yeah, 55 scouts. Yeah, so we're gonna refill our energy. We're gonna skip a week. So we won't be back for a month. I hope that this isn't too much of a inconvenience for folks, but we definitely need it. We definitely need a little respite. But we'll be back in full force after Christmas. But you can keep up with us on Facebook at facebook.com/Masters of the Forge, right, Snart?
Yes, We also have a webpage at mastersoftheforge.com where you can find our episodes, find the rules for this amazing game that Adam has made, and let's see, what else do you have?
iTunes reviews. We love good iTunes reviews.
Yes.
Please help us out there. That helps us. That helps our visibility a lot. We also have Masters of Forge at Twitter. So
Yes.
check us out there. All month I will still be doing the Orcs Vent calendar, so you'll be getting new Orc content every single day. I hope you enjoy that. But I guess until then,
play the game the way you want to. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Attribution, No Derivatives, Non-Commercial International License. More information about this license and contact information if you have any requests can be found at our blog, mastersoftheforge.com. The music used in this podcast was made by Podod of the duo Sublevel 3. The track is used with his permission.
single base with multiple models on it. This doesn't exist in X-Wing right now, but it does exist in
Star Trek Attack Wing?
Thank you. It does exist.
Technically, it does exist in Star Wars Armada.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what the name of the large scale game?
Sorry, my wife just gave me a beer, and I'm in love with my wife all over again.
You are so easy to please. I wonder how it will be in Chicago.
Oh, I wish Wendy could come to Chicago. She's not coming this year.
You know, we're just gonna have to have drunk pillow fights in the room anyway. Hear that, Wendy?
Wendy, Snorri wants to have drunk pillow fights.
Oh, have fun with that.
Yeah? I have permission.
Yeah.
Yay.
All yours.
He's all yours, she says.
Oh, I'm glad I have that on recording.
All right, let me start over again. So the next kind of ship is the escort. I hate you so much. Let's start that again.
That didn't last long.
It didn't. Wendy was making fun of me. All right, so the escorts, right?